Hey guys, so I'm doing another short video with some tips and some things that I wanted to share regarding stress and anxiety and kind of ways that you can try and start dealing with it and kind of making some changes that might eliminate some of the feelings that you get from stress and anxiety, especially if you suffer from anxiety disorder. But even if you just have a stressful job or you're kind of in a stressful, situation right now with just life in general, it's easy to get overwhelmed and just not feel like you can kind of get your head above water. And sometimes you just need to take a few steps just to help your body feel better. So I wanted to share just some super basic things that I'm going to provide in my next blog post that will have a little bit more detailed information, and then some links to some different things that I could recommend as far as tips and links and things that I've come across. So the biggest thing that surprisingly I think a lot of people overlook and don't really consider the amount of effect it can have on you and your mood is what you eat. And not just eating healthy, but also eliminating certain types of foods. There's a lot of people that suffer from anxiety and stress and these feelings from an inflammation that's going on inside their body. And if you are continually eating foods that contribute to inflammation, you're going to continue to have those sensations and those feelings, and you're going to just kind of always be going through that cycle. So, hey, Michelle. So what I recommend, if you wanted to start feeling better now, even if you don't have a gluten intolerance, I felt so much better after I eliminated gluten from my diet, just because it does it's hard for your body to process. And not just eliminating gluten though, because there's so many other things that our bodies have a hard time metabolizing and digesting. So eliminating sugars and processed foods, things that are just not natural or that our body just doesn't need a lot of. There's so much added sugar and sodium to processed prepackaged foods anyway. And if you can have your own, food that you make, and you're just buying, fruits and vegetables and proteins and some whole grains, even if you're not doing the gluten-free, you're going to be better off. But if you're really trying to eliminate some of that inflammation, I do recommend at least trying gluten-free to see if your body has a reaction once you start introducing it back in. Another thing that can be an inflammatory food is dairy. And if you eat a lot of dairy or if you drink milk, you can sometimes have issues with inflammation that maybe you don't even know. So again, eliminating things, and then you can always bring them back in. But kind of giving your body a chance to kind of see how it does without these types of foods. And the other things that can be big contributing factors to anxiety and stress, which could be counterintuitive to some people in their mind because maybe these are ways that they help deal with it. But caffeine, if you drink too much coffee, or if you're a pop drinker, which I would recommend pop eliminating anyway, just because of all the chemicals and stuff in our pop. But eliminating or decreasing your caffeine intake will help, just because it kind of gets your heart rate going, and that extra oomph can kind of contribute to your anxiety. Alcohol, which is a depressant, but it also can interfere with kind of your symptoms of anxiety and actually make it worse as well. Nicotine is another contributing factor because it does mess with, just kind of how your brain functions, and it can maybe make you feel good initially, but then you're going to have, you've got the addictive factor to nicotine and alcohol and stuff too, that people with anxiety sometimes have a more likelihood of contributing, dependence on that stuff. So if you can take some days, that you really, if you really want to try and see if you can make a difference, eliminate some of these things and see if you don't notice a difference, and then slowly start to ease things back in and see if there's something that you're like, gosh, I really don't feel good when I'm eating this or consuming this, and maybe just eliminate that altogether. A couple other things outside of the food is getting regular exercise, which seems like a no-brainer, but just getting some physical activity when it starts to get nicer outside, getting some vitamin D, getting the endorphins going, getting your body, your blood pumping, and just getting your body moving, and just kind of getting like the fresh air, like I said, and the vitamin D are going to be good things for your mind and for your body and just your heart. Everything, it's going to benefit you, and just getting kind of your mind off of maybe what you're stressed out about when you're working out or going for a walk, those sort of things. And going back to the environment, I guess just having a positive environment and not locking yourself up in your room because it's, too stressful to think about getting out and doing things. But, I was reading listening to a podcast recently, and one of the things they talked about is that people suffer from anxiety. A lot of times they miss out on opportunities and things. They forget how to have fun and enjoy life and just do things that maybe that used to bring them joy in the past, but because of, their anxiety, they're kind of become hermits and they kind of avoid situations, and that can actually make things worse too. You need to socialize, you need to interact with people, you need to try and have fun. Keeping your mind busy, doing puzzles and those sorts of things, like just mind games and different things that kind of keep your mind active and distracted. Sometimes when you have attention issues, you are easily distracted, but if you can kind of hone in on an activity, it can eliminate some of the distractions. And I'm going to share a link in this post when I'm done, something that I have found even for my kids that they've found helpful, and I think they discovered it at school, and so many kids at school are using these, and they're actually for adults too, but they're little handheld widgets or fidgets. They're called different things, but there's so many different options out there for these type of things that they can put in their pocket, so they're not obvious. And if they're taking a test, or if they're doing a quiz, or they're in some situation where they're just kind of a little stressed out and they just need something to occupy their brain or just to distract them from that stressful situation, these little handheld widgets have been awesome, and they've got great reviews on Amazon. There's just, like I said, there's a ton of different ones out there, but for anybody that kind of has that distraction and that kind of get stressed when you're in certain situations, this might be something that might be beneficial to you that you could start using right away. So these were just some tips that you could start now. You don't have to go on a super strict detox diet, but I do recommend trying some of these things and seeing if they help. And just wanted to throw it out there because if this is something that is important to you or something you really want to try and do, I'm going to be opening up another free group starting next month, and I'm going to be focusing on putting together either a meal plan or some specific foods that are going to be beneficial to somebody that does suffer from anxiety, kind of going through what I just mentioned as far as the foods to avoid, things that you should try eating instead, way to create a meal plan that would be beneficial to somebody that suffers from stress and anxiety and dealing with that stuff. And then I'll also be incorporating some relaxation exercises. I've been doing a lot more yoga, so I've got some great yoga poses and moves and stuff that are also beneficial for kind of de-stressing and detoxing the body at the same time. So I hope that this information was helpful. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and if you find this helpful, or if you know somebody else that might be interested in more of the information that I'm going to provide in my blog, please share this video, and when I do post the blog, I would be happy to have you share that as well. I want to get the word out because this is something that's very important to me, and I know many people suffer from stress and anxiety, and with summer coming up and kids are going, we got kids transitioning to new schools, going to college and different things. There's a lot of stress, and sometimes people don't want to admit that they have stress or anxiety, but if you can kind of nip it in the bud before that stress-inducing time comes, then maybe you could have a better handle on it. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you listening, and I just want you to know this is super important to me, so I hope that it's been helpful for you. Take care.